This video is brought to you by Ridge Wallet, a slim front pocket wallet available in carbon fiber and titanium. With more than 250,000 sold, a lifetime guarantee and free shipping, get 10% off with the code GOLDFISH at ridgewallet.com. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, this week is Guilds Week, where each day we are looking at another hypothetical list from around the internet showing off one of the guilds from Guilds of Ravnica, and today is Golgari Day, and we have a sweet Golgari Midrange deck from Ali Aintrazi over at CoolStuffInc. If you want to read his article talking about this deck and the other decks he's been working on, I'll link it in the description down below. But first, a quick reminder before we break down Golgari Midrange for Guilds of Ravnica Standard. If you enjoy this deck and you'll want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Golgari Midrange, and Golgari in general as a guild, is all about the graveyard, and we start off on turn 1, on turn 2, stocking our graveyard primarily with creatures, with the help of Stitcher Supplier and Glowspore Shaman, both of which come down and essentially just mill 3 cards with additional upside. Glowspore can put a land back on top of our deck if we're desperate to hit a land drop. Stitcher Supplier, when it dies, it gets to mill some more. But mostly, our deck really just wants things in the graveyard, because all of our big payoffs and some of our synergy cards as well really just rely on having stuff in the graveyard. So they come down early, start stocking our graveyard. Then we have a couple of less traditional ways to stock our graveyard. Playcrafter makes us and our opponent each discard a card if we can't sacrifice a creature or a planeswalker, so it's always doing something. Hopefully we're eating a good creature on our opponent's side, or maybe if we're lucky, a planeswalker. Worst case, we're making our opponent discard a card, and then we get to sacrifice something like a Stitcher Supplier, which we kind of want to sacrifice anyway to mill even more cards, so it hurts our opponent much more than it hurts us, plus it gives us another way to get a creature into the graveyard. And then Thrashing Brontodon, just a one-of, but we can sacrifice it to blow up an artifact or enchantment, gets it in the graveyard, and gives us a nice hedge if we run into a deck playing those sort of things. Then we have Vraska Golgari Queen, which is kind of the engine that makes our deck run. 4-mana Planeswalker, +2 lets us sacrifice a permanent, so another way to get a creature from the battlefield into the graveyard, getting rid of like our Stitcher Supplier to mill more cards, etc, etc, etc. Plus, we have some ways to get stuff back from our graveyard, so we really minimize the downside of the +2, or maybe even turn it into an upside, and we get to draw a card and gain a life for our trouble. Otherwise, we can use it as like an Abrupt Decay for removal, and if we ultimate it, it only takes one creature getting through to win us the game. So a pretty good finisher with the ultimate as well, but mostly it's sacrificing to generate value, ticking down to kill some stuff, sacrificing again to generate more value. Since we have all these sack outlets, we get to take advantage of Journey to Eternity. Comes down, enchants one of our creatures. When that creature dies, not only does it come back, but it also flips around into Atzel, which gives us a really strong land in the late game, where every turn we can just keep reanimating things, and then we can do really cool tricks with Vraska, because we can like sacrifice a creature to put it in the graveyard, then reanimate it again with Atzel. So a really powerful late game engine card. Speaking of reanimating every turn, Ravenous Chupacabra can be incredibly scary with Atzel and Vraska, because we can cast it, kill our opponent's best thing, sacrifice it to Vraska to draw a card, reanimate it with Atzel, the flip Journey to Eternity, to kill something else, sack it to Vraska again to draw a card, so it's a very strong grindy engine as the game goes along, with all of our graveyard recursion and synergies, and gives us a removal spell that is also in creature form, so it works with all of our Undergrowth Graveyard Payoff synergies. Then we have Doom Whisperer, which is where we sort of transition from graveyard enablers to payoffs, because this is kind of both. It's massive flying and trampling. A 6/6 for 5 with those abilities is already just a great card, and then it gives us the ability to just surveil a ton of things into our graveyard, stack our graveyard at lightning speed, so a perfect combo of a big finisher and also a great enabler for our deck. As far as our payoffs for dumping all these cards in our graveyard, we start off with Golgari Finebroker and Molderhawk, which are pretty powerful creatures on their own, they also let us get things back from the graveyard. So Golgari Midrange, you get a 3/4 for 4, which is already pretty okay. The big deal is we return a permanent from our graveyard to our hand when it enters the battlefield. So all that stuff we're sacrificing and milling, it gives us access to it. It kind of turns our graveyard into another hand where we can get back a Chupacabra if we need removal. We can get back a Doom Whisper if we need a big finisher. And then Molderhawk, it looks super expensive at 9 mana, but it costs 1 less for each creature in our graveyard. So in the late game, with all the creatures we're milling into our graveyard and sacrificing, we're going to be able to cast this for just 2 mana and get a 6/6, and it returns a land from our graveyard to the battlefield for a little bit of extra value. As far as our other finishers, the 2 big ones are Izoni Thousand Eyes and Hatchery Spider. So Hatchery Spider, pretty simple. Big reaching spider that comes along with another green permanent. So when we cast it, we get to look at a bunch of cards based on how many creatures we have in our graveyard, which hopefully by the time we're casting a 7 mana play will be quite a few. And then we grab a Vraska, a Fine Broker, or something like a Izoni. And Izoni is just an incredibly grindy finisher. We cast it, we're going to have a bunch of creatures in our graveyard. Let's say we have 10, which seems very practical. We're going to have a 2/3 and plus 10 1/1 insect tokens, and then we can sacrifice stuff to draw cards to reanimate that stuff with our Atzel from our Journey to Eternity, or we can sacrifice Izoni to something like Vraska and then just reanimate it and get it back and make 10 more insects the next turn, and then sacrifice it, draw a card, gain a life, get it back with our Atzel to make 10 more 1/1 insects and just overwhelm our opponent with almost unbeatable value when the game goes long. Otherwise, Assassin's Trophy gives us just a catch-all removal spell. Our deck is mostly focused on creatures. Assassin's Trophy is so good because we don't have to worry about, oh, we need this to kill early game things, we need this to kill planeswalkers. It just kills anything for 2 mana, so we can make it our only removal spell and get away with that in this deck. Mana base, Memorial to Folly, another way to get things back from the graveyard. Field of Ruin to deal with those flip Search for Iskantas or whatever annoying non-basics our opponent has. A bunch of dual lands, some basic lands. In the sideboard, we get some more creatures. Removal and Chupacabra for artifacts and enchantments, Rexage. Deathgorge Scavenger to hate on our opponent's graveyard. Again, works with the theme of wanting creatures in our graveyard for Undergrowth, reanimating them with Atzel. Eldest Reborn and Phyrexian Scriptures can come back from the graveyard with the help of our Golgari Midrange, since they are permanents. Gives us some more removal, repeatable, kind of card advantage to some extent. Cast down to deal with early game things. For control, we have Duresses, Argo's Bloodfast, Treasure Map to just kind of churn through our deck, keep drawing cards. And that is Golgari Midrange for Guilds of Ravnica Standard. And that's our instant deck tech for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.